In the quiet solitude of these past few months, your person has been consumed by a relentless storm of regret, sadness, and longing. It started as a dull ache, an uncomfortable whisper at the back of their mind, but now it has grown into an unbearable weight pressing against their chest, suffocating them with the enormity of what they lost. What once felt like a momentary rift has stretched into an endless void, a silence so vast it now seems impossible to cross. This silence did not appear overnight. It began subtly, like a crack in the foundation of a home, small, almost unnoticeable, but spreading with time, deepening with every unspoken word and every moment of hesitation. It was their pride that kept them from fixing it, their fear that held them back from reaching out. And now, that tiny fracture has widened into a chasm so deep that even the echoes of what once was can barely be heard. In their moments of deep reflection, they have come to understand something they once refused to see, the undeniable truth that they were the architect of their own suffering. Their own fears, their insecurities, their unwillingness to be vulnerable all played a part in this painful unraveling. They now see how, time and time again, they allowed their ego to dictate their actions, pushing you away when all you ever did was offer warmth, love, and understanding. Looking back, they can recall the countless moments when you stood by them, unwavering in your loyalty. You were their rock, the steady force that never wavered, even in the face of their inconsistency. They remember the nights when their mind was a battlefield, filled with worries and doubts, and how effortlessly you silenced those fears with just your presence. You had a way of making the world feel lighter, of making chaos feel manageable, yet they failed to cherish that. They mistook your patience for permanence, your kindness for something that would never run dry. And now, it is gone. The space where you once stood now feels like an abyss, an emptiness they cannot ignore. The absence of your voice, your laughter, your unwavering support, it has left a void so deep that nothing seems to fill it. They have tried to distract themselves, to bury the longing under meaningless conversations and fleeting distractions. But no matter how hard they try, the ache remains. It follows them in the quiet moments, creeps into their thoughts when they least expect it, and reminds them of what they threw away. But the most painful realization isn't just about losing you. It's about who you were, the rare, irreplaceable soul that they failed to appreciate when they had the chance. They now see you in a way they never did before, not just as someone they loved, but as someone they deeply admire. It's not just your beauty, though that has always drawn them in. It's not just the way you light up a room, commanding attention with an effortless grace. No, it's something far more profound. It's your strength, the quiet, unshakable resilience that radiates from within you. It's the way you carried yourself with dignity, even in the moments when you should have broken. It's the way you loved, so deeply, so selflessly, expecting nothing in return but the same kind of honesty and devotion. They recall the moments when your presence alone was enough to soothe their soul, when your touch had the power to bring them back from the edge of their own darkness. With you, the world made sense. With you, they felt safe. But in their arrogance, they failed to recognize the rare and beautiful gift you were offering. They thought they had time. They thought they could take you for granted, that your love would always be there, waiting. Now, they know the truth. The love you gave was not something ordinary. It was rare, a once-in-a-lifetime kind of love, the kind that doesn't just fade. It leaves an imprint, a lasting mark on the soul. And they now realize, with gut-wrenching clarity, that they may have lost it forever. The regret is unbearable. It gnaws at them, day and night, whispering reminders of the mistakes they made. They see it all now, the times they let their pride dictate their actions, the moments they withheld their emotions when all you needed was reassurance, the instances when they let their fears keep them from showing up for you the way you always showed up for them. They see how they let you carry the emotional weight alone while they retreated into their own doubts. And they hate themselves for it. Since the separation, a restless yearning has taken root in their heart. It is not just a longing for your presence, but for the feeling of being loved by you. They crave the comfort of knowing they had someone who truly saw them, who accepted them despite their flaws, who believed in them even when they didn't believe in themselves. But now, that love is out of reach, and they are left to sit with the consequences of their own actions. They now understand what they never did before. Love is not about power. It is not about control or ego or making the other person chase after you. True love is about balance. It is about giving as much as you receive, about choosing each other every single day, even when it's hard. It is about vulnerability, about trust, about standing by each other when the world feels like it's crumbling. And yet, they fail to see that when it mattered. They let their pride come before their heart. They let their insecurities create distance where there should have been closeness. They let their fear of being open lead them to push away the one person who was willing to love them fully. And now, they are left with nothing but the echoes of what could have been. Each memory is like a blade, cutting deeper every time they replay it in their mind. The laughter, the late-night conversations, the way you looked at them with a love so pure it was almost unbearable, it all haunts them now. Because they know, deep down, that they may never get it back. The loss is suffocating. It is a pain unlike any they have ever known, a grief that lingers no matter how much time passes. They wish they could turn back time, rewrite the past, undo the damage they caused. But they can't. All they can do now is sit with the weight of their regret and hope that maybe, just maybe, there is still time to make things right. But even that hope is fragile, because some losses are irreversible. Some wounds run too deep. And sometimes, no matter how much we want to fix what we broke, we are left to live with the consequences of our actions. And so they stand at a crossroads, trapped between past mistakes and an uncertain future. The road ahead is unclear, but one thing is certain: losing you has taught them the most painful, yet most important lesson of their life. Sometimes, it takes losing something truly priceless to understand its worth. And sometimes, that realization comes too late. The dream of rekindling the love and warmth you once shared lingers like a fragile thread they desperately cling to. It is a dream woven with bittersweet realization, laced with the knowledge that pride and neglect were the silent forces that tore everything apart. In the stillness of their thoughts, your person stands forever altered, humbled by the weight of their past choices and the consequences they failed to grasp until now. They once believed love was an unbreakable force, something they could take for granted, but now they understand how delicate and sacred it truly is. Their heart aches for redemption, but fear holds them captive. Fear that the wounds inflicted may be too deep to heal, that time may not be enough to mend what was broken. Yet, within this sorrow, an undeniable truth begins to emerge. Growth is often born from pain, and the lessons learned in suffering leave the most lasting impressions. They now see the immeasurable value of unconditional love, a gift they once overlooked but will never take for granted again. For years, I lived in the exhausting pursuit of validation, shaping myself to fit into every mold, bending my personality to match what others expected of me. I became an expert in adaptation, seamlessly slipping into different roles, all for the sake of acceptance. The need to be liked was relentless, an invisible chain that bound me to a life that wasn't truly mine. Each interaction felt like a performance, each word carefully measured to ensure approval. But the more I tried to belong, the further I drifted from myself. No matter how much I gave, no matter how well I played the part, it was never enough. The more I chased after acceptance, the more hollow I felt inside. It took years for me to realize that I had been searching for something that could never be found in others. The moment of truth came like a lightning bolt, sudden, shocking, and irreversible. The only person I could truly count on, the only presence that would never abandon me, was myself. And so, I made a choice. I stopped living for others and started living for me. At first, it felt like an act of rebellion. Choosing myself over external validation felt foreign, almost selfish. I had spent so long curating my identity to fit into spaces that weren't meant for me that I had forgotten what it meant to simply be. But as I took my first steps towards self-acceptance, something shifted. The weight of expectation began to lift, and for the first time in years, I could breathe. The journey was not without struggle. Old habits clung to me like shadows, whispering that I was nothing without the approval of others. The temptation to slip back into old patterns was strong, but each time I chose myself, I felt lighter, more whole. The walls I had built around my true self began to crumble, revealing a version of me that had been buried beneath years of compromise. I was no longer just existing, I was awakening. Then, I met you. From the very first moment, something inside me stirred. It was as if a fog had lifted, and suddenly, I could see with clarity. You weren't like anyone I had ever met before. While the world around me obsessed over status, wealth, and shallow pleasures, you walked a different path. You carried yourself with quiet confidence, a radiant authenticity that was magnetic. You didn't demand anything from me. You didn't try to change me, didn't ask me to fit into a mold. You simply existed, and in your presence, I felt something awaken within me. Being with you was like discovering a forgotten part of myself, a version of me that had been lost in the chaos of seeking validation. It wasn't just the way you spoke or the way you moved. It was something deeper, something unspoken. Spending time with you was like unraveling a mystery I had spent my entire life trying to solve. You showed me that the life I had been chasing, the endless pursuit of approval, the constant need to prove myself, was nothing more than an illusion. It had been a distraction, a mirage that kept me from seeing the truth. The peace and fulfillment I had searched for could never come from external validation. They had to be found within. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, I found myself letting go of the things that once held me captive. The masks I wore, the roles I played, the habits I relied on to numb the emptiness inside, all of them began to fall away. And in their place, I found something unexpected: freedom. Looking back, I know now that meeting you was no accident. It was as if the universe had orchestrated our paths to cross at precisely the right moment. You were the catalyst for my transformation, the spark that set everything into motion. But the change didn't happen overnight. There were moments of doubt, moments when I questioned whether I could truly break free from the expectations that had shaped me for so long. There were nights when fear crept in, whispering that I was nothing without the approval of others. But each time, I found myself returning to you, to the quiet strength you embodied, to the reminder that I was enough. The time we spent apart was just as important as the time we spent together. It was in the moments of solitude, in the spaces between our conversations, that I truly began to understand how much I had grown. Distance was not just separation, it was a gift, an opportunity to reflect, to heal, to come back stronger. And when we did come back together, it was different. It was deeper, more profound. Love was no longer just about passion or desire. It was about understanding, about seeing each other for who we truly were and accepting every piece of it. For so long, I had been lost, drifting through a world that prized superficial success over genuine fulfillment. I had been surrounded by people who appeared to have it all: the wealth, the status, the admiration of others. But they lacked something essential. They lacked authenticity. But you were different. You embodied something rare and extraordinary. You didn't chase after meaningless pursuits or try to mold yourself to fit society's expectations. You lived for something deeper, something truer. And that was what drew me to you. In your presence, I found the courage to stop running, to stop hiding, to stop pretending. You helped me see that I didn't need to seek approval, didn't need to fit into anyone's idea of who I should be. The only thing I needed was to be true to myself. Now, I no longer feel the need to wear masks. I no longer feel the pressure to conform. I am learning to embrace who I am, without fear, without apologies. I have let go of the false persona I once clung to, and in doing so, I have found something far more valuable myself. Meeting you was not just another chapter in my life. It was the moment everything changed. It was the beginning of a journey towards self-discovery, one that I never could have imagined, but now could never turn away from. You taught me that real happiness doesn't come from chasing after approval. It comes from embracing who we truly are, from living unapologetically and fearlessly. And for that, I will always be grateful. When I look into your eyes, I see something rare, someone who understands that true fulfillment isn't found in what we accumulate, but in the depth of our character and the connections we nurture. Through you, I have learned to cherish life in all its imperfections, to see beauty in the raw, unfiltered truth of who we are. Every high and low, every moment of joy and heartbreak has shaped me in ways I never expected. And now, as I stand here, I do so with a heart full of gratitude, not just for you, but for the journey that brought me to this moment. Because I know now that the love we share is not fleeting. It is not fragile. It is something enduring, something that will continue to grow and evolve with us. And as we move forward, I do so with the quiet confidence that our best moments are still ahead of us. This is just the beginning.